So
You go for those uber high difficulty modes.
it does block them. It does indeed block where they. What? No!
That's good to know. So keep in mind, this demo save is on the lowest difficulty, so it's
Okay.
going to look extremely easy because
Okay.
everything in this game is extremely easy.
So we've got a little bit of something different going on today. I recently got the chance to have a demo showcase of the upcoming indie game Dark Deity done for me by the game director, Chip Moore. This was honestly a really neat opportunity, and Chip was a hella chill guy I was glad to meet and chat with. This video is not sponsored, by the way. It was really just the time was taken to show me the game before release, and I honestly got a really good impression both of Chip and the game he and his team of 6 have been working on, and I'd be glad to share this experience. Anyway, let's get on with the video.
There's a whole lot of characterization here. So, early on depends on, some of them have like more later bonds. Irving obviously is bonding with a lot of the early characters. This is the main character, as it were, although it's really a combination of a few characters.
And are they all voice acted, or is it just for cutscenes?
Yes, so it's partial voice acting.
Okay.
So the story doesn't have, it's like Fates and Awakening where they go, huh, what?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So it's like that. I guess I can come into, normally I don't show these off, but I'll show you a little bit of what's in the dialogue. It's
gotcha, that kind of system then.
So, not to spoil any story, it's pretty minimal. And then in combat they have crits and select lines, and sometimes they'll talk to each other if they're near bonded units, that sort of thing. So really in the base, the biggest thing to look at is the weapon upgrade system. And I know as someone that plays on hard difficulties, you'll be interested in these progression mechanics. We give the player a huge amount of freedom to mess around with builds. Really creating broken late game builds is like part of the biggest portions of this game. It's very much the intent.
Perfect.
Every character has 4 weapons available at all times. There's no durability. And the weapon upgrades are
also
actually
perfect.
individual unit progression system. So you scroll down, like Elias, the guy who was playing this save and got it to this point loves Elias. So of course he has his power spear upgraded to tier 2. Spears and swords are going to have like roughly different stats, but it generally follows that the power tree is going to be your high damage, high weight. Finesse is going to be crit. Focus is accuracy. And balance is like low weight, allowing you to double attack more reliably, especially for those edge cases when it's, you can double with that, but not with.
So like a speed kind of sensor thing.
Yeah. Just because we have such a, it's really, this is like a min-maxer type of system more than it is super accessible, I would say, because there's a lot you can do with it. So I'm going to just upgrade. I love the tier 2 animation for Alden's.
Oh, that's satisfying.
So we're going to go with Torrent.
That's definitely satisfying. Discord cutting there
in
for
the
a second.
You'll like this again as a min-maxer for sure if you're playing on maddening. You can buy stat boosters and there's no limit. The only limit is how much gold you're making. So the game is fully linear. There's no grinding. There's no way to level outside of it. So these are going to be really useful, but there's only so many you can get. And you can also buy weapon tokens. So gold is a lot more important in Dark Deity than it is in a lot of similar SRPGs. It's like a genuinely an important progression economy. And if you have any questions about the base, we can, but otherwise I think we just jump into the gameplay.
Okay, doke. One question that I definitely do have, when you mentioned that it's all linear without any grinding, it kind of reminds me of classic Fire Emblem stuff in that case, kind of similar to Blazing Sword. But
yeah,
would that be the kind of thing where there's no grinding throughout like the whole thing, or it's like you can do whatever you want with the save file once the thing is done with? Is that too far of what you're allowed to share? Like, is there a post game where you can like do stuff with your save file? Because one of my biggest complaints with 3 Houses was that once your save file is done, it's just gone forever. There goes all your hard work, and it's like, why did I bother becoming stronger than I needed to beat the story?
Yeah, no end game, unfortunately. We do have a built-in randomizer with a whole lot of different options for playthrough customization, and if you're into that really hard difficulty, there's a lot of, and I'll show you this, sort of at the end of this, because that's back to the main menu. I'll go ahead. But you can change individual stat weights. So like if you wanted to play on double enemy aptitudes mode, where they literally have double the stats, you can do that. So
sounds like the kind of thing I'd do.
Yeah, but we're not focused on so much sticking with one playthrough as making the game as extremely replayable as possible, and keeping it fresh and enjoyable every time.
So that's good. So it's probably not going to be like an insanely long kind of slog kind of thing. Because another one of my problems with Three Houses was, even though it was hella fun, was I was doing the exact same activities over and over and over again before I could do story content. And I lost my mind and felt like I was losing my sanity.
Yeah. The monastery on a second playthrough is painful, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wound up doing 3 playthroughs. I could still do a 4th for the 4th route to properly finish it off one day, but I don't know if I can.
I actually couldn't make it through a second playthrough in Three Houses, to be honest. And this is coming from someone that's played Radiant Dawn at least 20 times.
Oh, jeez.
I don't mind a linear game, right? I couldn't do the monastery again. I couldn't do it. And it's
just so much of the same.
You can skip it, but it's not in my nature to just like not do content. You know what I mean? So,
especially because it's like, if you skip that, that's now like a time slot that you're never getting back in the calendar again. That you've now just permanently wasted. Yeah, I have one of, if not the longest Three Houses series on YouTube at about 281 episodes, I think, each averaging an hour. And I've lost my mind. So
I'll have to check one of those out. So we chose chapter 4 because it's like the most standard RPG level we have, right? Rescue the prisoners, defeat the leader. You've seen this 500 times. You've done this a million times. We can talk about game mechanics and not have to worry about the level, which is nice.
Okie doke.
But this is the first chapter that doesn't have a turn limit. And so this is where we tell the player, that's not the prologue. And this is where we tell the player, hey, the faster you beat these chapters turn-wise, the more gold you get. So there is a big trade-off, right, between full clearing and getting all that XP and trying to go a little faster and getting more gold, which, you know, if you can buy better weapons and stat boosters, there's a lot of value to getting that bonus.
So going for like EXP or gold, or just trying to get the lowest turn count.
Yeah, LTC runs are going to be fun, I think. I'll mention something about LTCs real quick before I get into it. Alden, so mages have this ability called phase. And what it does is it's going to put a unit that's on this side of you here, or it'll put someone here.
Oh, so it's like a pivot kind of thing.
Yeah, but there are certain classes in the mage tree that will up the range on that. So you can get it to go from up to 3 away. So Alden could put like an ally that's here. Here. So, and it can go over walls. It can go over walls. So there's some funky shit you can do with it. So sort of primary mechanics advantage is a really big deal. So you notice I've selected little mage man here, and they have these little arrows bobbing up and down. That is indicative of advantage. So these guys have heavy plate armor. There's 4 armor types. You have cloth, light, medium, heavy, or rune cloak, leather, chain plate, if you like to add a little flavor, a little spice into things. And each damage type, so if you come into this like advanced unit menu, you can check here. Arcane is going to be really good against 1 damage type, pretty good against 1, and then bad against 2 of them. And that's sort of
that shows the direct percentages.
Yes. Although these percentages are modified then by, there's actually a stat you can build into called Mastery that increases a character's ability to exploit those numbers and makes the makes good matchups even more favorable.
Does it make the negative matchups the same or make them less against you?
It improves negative matchups a little bit, but not quite as much. It more like nullifies the negative rather than making them really good. Not that the negative is very large, but when the alternative is 30 plus above, it feels small.
Yeah.
To the degree, right, where like if we pull this thief has 1 less fortitude is resistance.
Okay.
Candidly. Like this guy has 1 more fortitude than the thief, but Alden with Torrent, right, would do 16 to him and 10 to him. Right? So it can make a pretty big difference, and especially late game when these numbers start to balloon and you do more damage, it becomes a big deal. So Lincoln's really close to promoting. You get him at level 9. We have a really aggressive XP curve on being ahead enemy levels. So even if I get a kill here, he's not going to promote, but I'm going to feed him 1 instead of killing this guy, so that we can get him a little closer, because I want to show you the class tree in the promotion screen.
Okie doke.
So we'll get a little kill on my boy Lincoln.
Very satisfying animations.
I love them. The biggest sin of doing such an early level for demos is that I don't get to show all the spicy tier 2 and tier 3 animation. There are 54 classes, and there's a whole lot of sauce in there, and I'm just showing the basic classes, which are the most boring. So it hurts me inside, but it must be.
Don't get to show the spicy yet.
Yes. So also something that dedicated fans really like is that you can see your aptitudes growths at any time. We make this information super available. Very important to us that you're able to know who you're building and why.
And I believe that I heard that when it comes to growths in this game, it was half is like the character's growth rates and the other is the class, or the other half essentially.
Correct. Yeah, which I'll be able to show you a little bit next turn when we get this bad boy promoted.
Okie doke.
There's also class abilities that come from all clerics can heal. All adepts can use chain, which is going to lock an enemy in place for a turn. Really, really useful if you have some glass cannon units that are vulnerable and you can't finish an enemy off. Uses their turn, but oftentimes very worth it. All right.
I could already see a strategy in my mind for the chain there. Have a frail unit that can bind some other enemy, do that, and then have the characters that can do the pivot thing come up and pivot them out of harm's way so the chain person can't hit them from there.
Yes. There actually is also one of the adept classes increases the range that you can chain from. So if that's like a utility you're interested in, you can run someone in that class and then put them in.
So don't even have to necessarily go into a danger zone to do that.
Yeah, which is really useful. I don't think I ran the class as a surge. I don't think I ran one last time, but our map artist who just did a random enemy classes run and was getting destroyed was running that and making big use out of it. All right, give me a crit, Tia. She has not been cooperating today. Oh, come on. I mean,
story of my life.
But she'll crit it. We'll get a crit at some point here. Thank God for that power spear.
What, you're telling me you won't rig it in your favor for the sake of the demo just to make it look better? No.
I hadn't. So the thing, we did rig Lincoln's XP, truth be told, in this save, because he does promote in this level most of the time, but not in the time that these demos take. So he probably had like 35 XP, and I went in and like coded it hard to be 90.
Yeah.
So we could actually get a promotion.
Man, I can't believe that degree of cheating. I, for one, cannot believe.
It's hideous.
It's heinous.
It's dishonest. You'll appreciate it when you see the class tree, I promise. Because it is, that's the bread and butter. Oh, no double Irving? Come on. You'll see something in here. I bet you he gets 2 HP. Blessed. So HP is guaranteed to go up by 1, and the roll is 4+2. So HP values are generally really high. What's funny is Alden has a really high crit chance, but I've yet to have him crit. I've done a lot of demos, and he still just never had it. I don't know why.
Just not skilled enough.
Also, I assume you're in with like current Fire Emblem memes. He has a bit of a overt reference. You ever seen the copy pasta about how Fire Emblem characters are so mean? Like, imagine a 17-year-old in war hitting you in the face with an arrow and then running off and yelling "too easy." That's one of his crit lines, which is just a little shitpost run. The game very much doesn't take itself super seriously. You might notice, like, Guga Steak is our HP booster. Guga is a steak YouTuber. He's this Brazilian dude that makes delicious looking steaks.
Oh,
we have a lot of references. Put that way. Like, I think Sia has the strength booster is a raw egg. Who is it that has the bean juice? Garrett. Speed booster, hot bean juice. There's sort of some dumb, silly stuff. The story mostly takes itself seriously, but the bonds have a little more room to,
be flexible.
And we try to keep everything grounded, but not too grounded. So we can get this promotion finally. So, sorry, I was trying to think how to tackle this here. So, the class system is very open within the confines of you have your base class. So all clerics are going to have this tree. And you'll see, there's big differences between. Lincoln is like extremely strong defensively. So 50 is his lowest, but it can be as big as 95, like 45 difference.
So it shows exactly how it impacts the growth rates.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I'm very used to looking up this stuff online.
it's a big decision. It's a big decision. These classes are really going to carve out a niche, right? So there's no reclassing at any point. And once you hit level 30, you can go from any of the tier 2s to any of the tier 3s. So a whole lot of hybrid builds you can run with. And they really do play, they play really differently because 20 levels of leveling up with these aptitudes is going to change the character a lot. And largely because of increased health pools and the way that grave wounds work, which I'll talk about in a bit, we're sort of allowed to make these really powerful skills when you're compared to normally in this genre. They actually get closer to like MMO skills than they do to strategy RPG skills. There's some really bonkers stuff.
So would those second class skills carry over to the third class? So so there's more than just like the leveling up with those growth rates that carries over to the next thing.
Yeah. So you get both the level, the stats from leveling up and the skills. And balance-wise, the tier 3 classes, you don't get quite as much time to accumulate stats in those. So the skills are usually a little more powerful in the tier 3s. It's sort of like these define your general capabilities, and then these carve out like a really specific niche for late game for what you're good at.
Gotcha.
And I'll just go over some of the skills so you can see examples. Acolytes also, every time they heal an ally, they get stacking crit on their next attack. So there's sort of like a hybrid support and then weaving in attacks once in a while class. Priests are just a pure healer. They get extra range on their heals. And their dodge is increased by basically scales off magic. Guardians, it converts their heal into a heal over time, which is really interesting when you get to the late game if you want to like send people out on their own. Sort of requires a lot of forethought and planning, but it can be really powerful. And then they get a defense buff as they get on low health. And Inquisitors get huge damage buff against enemy magic users that scale how powerful they are.
Mage
and when
killers.
they heal allies, they get they literally double their accuracy on enemy phase.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, whereas the fucking flavor text, most effective when unexpected.
I didn't expect a kind of Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
You know we had to do it.
Oh man. My freaking host alert when people host or raid me is literally nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
That's funny. There's a whole lot of shit posting in this game. I have a very cheeky sense of humor, and we've not been afraid about putting that in. So you'll find that. Hopefully you'll appreciate it.
I already do.
It's mostly in like flavor text and stuff that doesn't actually matter for story or gameplay. So I'm gonna put him in Acolyte here so we can just move on.
Okie doke.
But yeah, that's a huge part of building up your characters. I'll show you phase just because I'm not gonna use all of them for anything else. Sort of fun.
Was that a have fun?
Yeah. Alden has some goofy quotes, I'll be honest, but he's a funny kid. He's fun fact, Alden used to come with an inventory that was packed with 4 things of baked beans. Now, it wasn't balanced because baked beans are unironically a really good healing item, and they sell for quite a bit, but there's some references to that. And I swear the whole thing is not this goofy. I just don't like talking about those pieces. Most of it is pretty serious.
One interesting thought, thinking about healing items, that it just now occurred to me to ask. Are healing items in this game like consumables through like an inventory convoy kind of thing? Or is it like a thing that refreshes after each battle before each thing?
It is. They're consumables, and there are very few inventory slots.
Okay.
There's a couple pieces here, and I'm glad that you're familiar because I can talk about this is getting sort of nitty gritty, but they are like very invested design choices. You can trade with anyone on your team that hasn't acted yet. So trading is free. You can do it anywhere on the map as long as they haven't like moved or attacked or taken an action. And that's because you only have 4
spicy meatball.
Yes, the items are super goofy. You only have 4 inventory slots, and all of the food is single consume. So you can't hold a whole lot of healing stuff. Partially it's because clerics are both very useful in battle and frequent. You get 5 of them in the game. So having healers around is very easy to do. But partially it's because inventory management is supposed to be more of a more of a preparation thought than like okay, let me just slam in 8 vulneraries and fucking, be good for the rest of all of time.
Also, so it seems like inventory is just consumables in that case. It doesn't count for weapons.
So it doesn't count for weapons, but it does count for later in the game the eternal aspects. So it's an equipment system. Sort of. I was kind of pissed when Three Houses came out and they did relics because it's sort of similar. And I was actually working on this before they announced it. When I was a junior in college as an econ major, by the way. Nothing to do with game design. But I digress. The eternal aspects are sort of like flavor items, so they might increase your counterattack damage, or you can actually swap stats around. Like there's one that swaps strength and speed. So if you wanted to go like in the fastest rogue of all time and then use that and have them hit for 100, you can. A whole lot of weird effects. There's one that takes everything that's in your magic stat and depletes your magic stat to 0 and then increases defense with that value, defense and fortitude. Like there's weird builds.
Just become a wall.
Yeah, there's some weird builds that you can run with the eternal aspects, and they're sort of like on top of the weapon system as that like last line of customization. That just adds in. There's a lot you can do with late game builds, because the class system on top of weapons on top of that like weird tweak at the end that you can give units. Some of them are pretty straight. Like there's one that just increases your healing power. Some are pretty straightforward, but there are some funky things. And there's one really OP build that I actually left in the game because it's really fun to use.
And when
it's not balanced, it's the Bernie Vengeance build. Basically.
Oh God! I was just talking with somebody about that the other day. Someone who was planning on soloing with Bernie and Vengeance, but
disgusting.
But when it comes to thinking about Three Houses and relics, one of the complaints that I had about that system was because relics were tied to like a certain crest, it kind of took away the meaningful choice of who you give it to, because it's just like, it's gonna be really good if you give it to this person, give it to anybody else, and maybe it'll be alright, maybe it'll be awful if they don't have a crest at all. It basically pushes you to do a certain choice rather than make your own choices in your own builds. So is the way that it works here in a much more customizable way then?
Yes, there's no, if there's downsides, it's consistent across everyone. You can put them on anyone.
Wonderful.
And I totally agreed. I think most of the choices in that game don't actually do a whole lot. Like, if you want to not get destroyed on the harder difficulties, you have to make certain choices. And
I did a video essay on Three Houses, and I have like a whole section covering meaningful choices and how Three Houses doesn't have as many of those as it should.
When you talk about our gameplay philosophy, it's funny you say meaningful choices, because that's like the biggest thing we wanted, is that you make permanent choices that impact how your playthrough goes and have consequences that are both positive and negative. Even if they're not always the best decision, it should affect your playthrough, and you should be allowed to make those decisions. So definitely, partially, some of that design comes from my distaste for modern games, letting you do everything all the time. And partially it comes from games where you don't get to do anything any of the time. Wanted to have a middle ground. So I'll show you a little holy magic, because I like showing off the holy spells. Holy in the game universe isn't like a holy versus shadow. It just means that it's derived directly from one of the gods in like the Pantheon. It's sort of more of a like Greco-Roman god type of system. So the different trees, like power, finesse, and all that, are pulled from different gods. So like the power tree is the god of blood, and the god of oaths for balance. Word here.
Very satisfying animation.
I love the Acolyte. I have so much fun with the Acolyte. Let's see if we can't get a crit, and I'll take you to the main menu. See how you rat bastard. How dare you? We'll take him down. I need to get to those Arcanists in the in this room, because Sia's gonna double them. She'll definitely crit one of them. Elias has a pretty good crit chance, because he has every attack he gets a separate crit roll for 8%. That's sort of back end info, but he has a small crit roll that rolls every time. So early on, he's probably gonna crit more than the rest of your units. I'll just give it. It's not gonna happen.
Are the S and E's like weapon aptitude?
What's that?
On the fighting screen there, when I saw the S and E over the characters, is that like their aptitude with the weapons, or like the matchup with the weapons or something?
It's the matchup. So that's indicative of your advantage, right? So swords have like a advantage against light armor. And bows are not very good. Not that he could even attack back. All right, give me that crit. Come on, baby.
Is there any bow close counter at any phase?
No, there is not. Okay. However, bow users are like actually good in this game.
Okay.
the game is super player phase focused. Super player phase focused because you can deploy up to 14 units late in the game. So it's possible to build enemy phase units, but majority of the time your archers are going to be really good. I like having one personally because it's the only way to get physical damage from range. There is one rogue class that can do it, but I'll let you discover that on your own.
Okay.
You know what I can do actually? I'm not finishing this level, so I don't care if anyone dies.
I was about to ask what the blue tiles meant, but I think I just figured out that they're interactable there.
Yeah, they're interactable. Correct. Correctamundo. So let's see.
I got it right. Did I win?
Come on. Did I? You have won. Come on. Getting disrespected here. I think I'm literally just going to leave her there because she has the highest chance to get a crit. Also, I like her crit lines the most personally. But the voice cast is phenomenal. Yes, beautiful. Okay, I'll finish that thought in a sec.
Well, I missed though. Oh, never mind.
So, grave wounds. So this is my fate, right? When you die, when you're defeated, there is no permadeath. See, he loses 1 mastery here. So, depending on what kills you, still enemy phase. Depending on what kills you, you're going to lose 10% of one of your stats. So,
and is that randomly? I was about to ask if that was randomly decided, but you already said it. Depending on what kills you, I apologize. I'm dumb.
No, well, it is. There is RNG. So every damage type has, I believe, a pool of has 4 wounds it can inflict. So 4 stats, depending on what.
Okay.
But it's basically RNG. Yeah. Why we make this decision? It comes from obviously in the industry, like something needs to be done about permadeath right now because not a good mechanic in how it's currently implemented. That's my opinion, but a lot of people feel like that, where there is literally no feeling worse in the world than when you've been in a chapter for an hour.
Yeah.
And a 2% enemy crit kills you, and then you literally don't want to play that playthrough anymore. So it's sort of intended to, and partially also in permadeath, there are no consequences, right? It's like, it's the ultimate consequence, but if you just restart, there are no consequences. Because it doesn't impact your run at all, it just impacts your time.
Yeah, it's just like there's an hour of my time just gone forever as punishment for that.
Yeah, so we wanted to build a mechanic that has consequences, that does impact your run, and also respects your time. And that's sort of how we came to Grave. We're going to see if Sia can finally crit.
Without just being like, reset or suffer majorly.
Yes. And also, it's just like doing a full casual where there are no consequences, also not good design, in my opinion, right? Like,
so you're not getting this crit, I don't think.
I know. I mean, this is tragic. Garrick is a very tanky early game archer, by the way. You're used to them like dying in 1 hit if you expose them. He's actually really good bait in the early levels for getting other people exposed. Because lore-wise, a lot of the stats are sort of informed via the lore, and there's some characters that are really strong because of that. Intentionally, we try to really get the story and gameplay to mesh and feel cohesive. Sophia, adorable with her ferret, everyone loves. Butter the ferret. She's pretty ditzy, but she's a lot of fun. All right, do you double the mage? Oh, but you kill him. We want the crit. We don't want. I don't care about the XP or the kill.
Oh, there we go.
Let's go.
Ooh.
So we do have some flashy. Some of the crits aren't that flashy. I'd give it like a half and out. It really depends on the class identity. Like if it's like most of the rogues have pretty flashy crits.
Yeah.
A lot of the warriors, crits aren't that flashy. A lot of the warrior ones are like extra attacks in, like if they're going, it'll be like a shield bash or something. But the rogue ones are a lot of fun. A lot of the adept ones are cool. Let's see if we can't get a Sophia crit. She's gonna put
20%.
Yes!
Oh, there we go.
Let's go!
Big spins.
Get like the classic arrow spin there. Delicious. So I'm gonna take us to the main menu and show off some of the campaign stuff.
Okie doke.
Just real quick so you can see.
Made
We
with
have our
Game
3
Maker.
difficulties. But we also have campaign customization. So a lot of random item options. You can do random items, random weapons, a couple different options here. Recruitment order is a given. Random enemy classes makes the game really hard. Because normally it's organized in the fashion, but suddenly you have the fastest enemy in the game and the most defensive right next to each other, and it's like, holy shit, how do I have a team over here to do that and do other stuff?
Jeez, the amount of potential to royally screw myself, that absolutely seems like the kind of thing that I do in these kinds of games. Oh no.
I have a lot of fun with the randomizer stuff, but the unit aptitudes, you can do all the random stuff, but you can also do perfect changes if you wanted to do
Oh my good gracious.
So there is a lot of custom functionality, and if you wanted to do challenge runs where everyone has double defense and fortitude, you could.
How long do you think it's gonna be before somebody does the hardest potential difficulty run to beat it? Do you think it's possible? Or how long do you think it'll be until somebody does it?
There are runs that I don't think are possible. I think there are a lot of ways to customize the system in which it is not possible to beat the game. And I really wanted to give that freedom to people because, right, like, I don't know what people can do because I see challenge runs of stuff all the time that make absolutely no sense to me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
Mario 64 is a good example of that. Like, the half press, which is sort of a meme, but like transporting to other dimensions in the game world. It's like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but I'll act like I do.
I've recently been covering Lunatic Classic Fire Emblem Fate stuff on my channel, and I've been talking about some challenge runs that people have been doing around Discord and such, and people have been telling me that a week ago I found out that somebody did a no growth rate Conquest Lunatic Classic run, and then a few days ago I found out that somebody did a negative growth rates run of Conquest Lunatic Classic, and
How?
I don't know.
I don't want to know.
But apparently it's a thing that somebody was crazy enough to do.
I'm a bit of a Fates apologist. I think Birthright and Revelations are trash, but Conquest is probably my favorite gameplay experience in Fire Emblem.
Probably same.
Radiant Dawn is up there with it, but if you spam start on the story in Conquest, it's an excellent game.
We were literally just making that joke a few days ago. Story in Fates is actually really good if you just press the start button. Stories are real good if you just skip the cutscenes and whatnot.
I love Fire Emblem, right? So it's hard because now it's like I'm put in the spot of like a competitor, right? And
yeah.
That's not really what I'm just a fan of Fire Emblem who happens to also be making a game.
I feel like every Fire Emblem game that I've played has been so good in so many ways, but there's always at least one thing that's just, no.
That's really like a lot of games are like that. It happens to be recently they're choosing the things I care most about to mess up. And that's why like I'll play Conquest all day because I don't care a whole lot about the story. Like I really feel proud of the story we have in Dark Deity, but that's not why I play these games. So
they're fun strategy games.
Yeah. Although I would say Dark Deity is more an RPG than a strategy game, probably. But you can also you can change the gold modifier if you want it to be really hard. The XP modifier and base stats obviously is going to have some people. Although what's going to make it impossible is when people change this and the aptitudes, because the base stats are derived from the aptitude because of the way that it scales units coming in. So when people try to do these like crazy 0% aptitudes run, they're going to have a bad time.
So it's possible to do a no growths run.
Yes. Well, it's possible. I don't think anyone's going to do it, but it's possible.
Well, we'll see.
I'll be happy to be proven wrong because again, I don't see it being possible. The only way is if you solo run and just slam stat boosters, but like you won't be able to get enough of them. I don't know. We'll see.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. But I like to give them that option. And so someone was going to spend 2 years of their life putting this randomizer together, or I did it in a month and now it's in the game and it's better. So the community really, really wanted it. And like having such a cool community when we've never shipped a game, this is literally our first game, is like cool as hell. So we've tried to honor that they, have been following and supporting us and by respecting what they want. And
for sure.
People wanted a randomizer, we gave them a randomizer.
That's awesome. So about how long has it been in development?
2.5 years. December 2018. So I was on winter break in my junior year of college and was bored as hell and was Googling games like Fire Emblem and not finding anything I wanted to play. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just make the game I want to play? And here we are. Two and a half years later, still not done. Well, it's done now, but still not out. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's really cool, just being like, hey, why don't I just try making it myself and see what happens? And now that's become, I think that's really neat.
It's cool. So I would like never had a good work ethic as a student.
Same.
Or in any of my like econ jobs, finance jobs I was in, or summer jobs, I guess.
Yeah.
Have any full-time stuff. And I didn't expect to. I sort of hated where I was headed, and then suddenly I find game development, and like I'm willing to work an 80-hour week after week, and be happy with that. Like that's fine. So it's been a blessing to have had that thought and started, because like this is it. So it's pretty cool.
A cool another path to take. Yeah, I'm currently in university myself. I'm going to be going into my 5th year here coming up.
Nice.
Studying computing science and game design. I'm going for a certificate in game design. And
nice.
So along the way, I definitely know a bit of the pains that could come with game development. For one of my classes, we had to make a kind of short indie game of sorts in a team of 6 in the course of 3 months. And it was painful.
That's a good show right there.
Every group was supposed to have 3 programmers. We had 2. I was one of those 2. So it was definitely a major workload. It was fun, but
honestly, it was a blessing to be working on it alone for most of the time. I mean, it sounds wrong, but like I'm the only person that's ever touched the code for this game or ever touched the engine. And to be entirely honest with you, but I didn't know how to code before working on this. I literally picked it up off YouTube tutorials in like a week, and then just everything else was just written from there. It's not commented at all. None of it commented. Literally, if
another coder got hold of your code to add something, they'd be stuck.
They are gonna have a bad time. Yeah. This is what I've said is, if I died and someone else had to finish it, it would be faster to just reprogram the whole thing than to try to make sense of what I have done here. It's been a blessing to be the only one, and now I'm just wondering what I'm going to do in the future when I'm not the only one.
Yeah, when it came to this group project that I was in, the software that we needed to use was just RPG Maker, so that those in the group who've never studied coding or game design can also contribute to the code and such. But we were told to get full marks on the game, we had to do something that the engine was never supposed to do. Nobody made an RPG in the entire class with RPG Maker, but because of that, you had to use a bazillion plugins. So mine and the other programmers' code started fighting each other and breaking the game a lot of the time. Was the biggest issue.
Yeah.
So
I actually think that's like the scalability problem with teams, is the more programmers you add, like it creates a bigger workload on them.
Yeah.
Exponentially. Because making it work with other people's code is hard.
Yeah,
really
for sure.
So blessed to be a solo dev in that endeavor. Something I don't overlook, right? Is it makes life really easy.
Yeah. So I saw that game on the intro screen there. It said that it was made in Game Maker.
Yeah. GMS2, so GML, which is like a C# offshoot. Really, really, really easy engine to pick up, and surprisingly powerful. It has its limitations, but would recommend if you're making a 2D game, especially if you're newer to coding. I definitely am going to probably move to Unreal at some point, but
when I was in high school for my final project for my computing science class, I tried to, in Java, program a Fire Emblem-like thing. Only got one level that was barely functional, and my goodness, I have a newfound respect for those who program.
So kind of thing. It's funny because you would think it's easy, right? Because it's just chat on the computer. It's not. It's because all these engines have really like built-in physics and movement stuff. It's actually way easier to do like a platformer or like an action game, because that sort of stuff is built in. Anything that's on a grid, you actually have to make that grid. You have to code that grid, and then everything is built on your imaginary grid that you've coded. So,
the number one biggest problem I had with that was figuring out the whole unit movement, essentially. Like, let's say somebody has like 4 movement. How do I make it so that they can move 4 tiles down, or 1 tile to the right and 3 down, or 2 right, 2 down? And that was what I was stumped on for a couple weeks. Just in that I didn't get the whole thing working at the end of the day, but my teacher was just like, you know, I've seen you working really hard on that, so you're still gonna get good marks.
You got pretty far for being in high school working on that. That's dope.
It was one barely functional level, but I tried, I guess. I certainly tried. I wonder if that project still exists on my computer anywhere. It probably doesn't.
Probably. Oh, I still have early builds on my laptop of Dark Deity that are the earliest you've ever seen. It's beautiful. But,
well, what did you think? I honestly think that it was really incredible to hear that somebody studying economics would do this sudden turnaround and pull a Thanos, I'll do it myself, to create a Fire Emblem-like indie game. Taking the time to learn how to program this and spending the past couple of years on this project. What Dark Deity's production honestly couldn't help but remind me of was the production of the original 2 Roller Coaster Tycoon games. Sometime after my Roller Coaster Tycoon video essay, I actually briefly wound up getting into contact with Simon Foster, the graphic designer on the original games. These games, just like Dark Deity, were programmed almost solely by one person, Chris Sawyer, and what Simon Foster told me about Chris was that he kept a sharp focus and his aim was to make a game that he would love to play, and he'd worry about how it would be sold later. The impression I get from what I've heard about Sawyer was that he was very tunnel visioned towards creating the game he himself would most enjoy playing. Worrying about the rest would be a bridge he crossed when he got to it. And that's honestly the same kind of impression I got through my interactions with Chip. It very much felt like he worked hard to create the ideal game he wanted to hop into back when he first googled games similar to Fire Emblem. It feels like that was the core focus here. There's definitely a lot of games nowadays that only even exist because of some committee deciding, how can we market and sell this, and actually worrying about developing it later. So I honestly think it's really refreshing and inspiring to see such a passion-driven project develop into what it is today, and to have developed such a following in the couple of years leading up to its release. Honestly, I wish all the best to Chip and the Dark Deity team, and I personally can't wait to hop into this game myself. And with that, thanks for watching the video.
So I'm gonna dip out, but I really appreciate you taking the time, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity here. I think that it's
giving these demos to people who are knowledgeable about the genre. It's really fun. It's made my week to be able to do this because I haven't been able to show the game at all for a very long time. So
finally get it off your chest, get it out there.
It's been fun. So thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you play it.
I look forward to trying it out.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good one, man.
You as well. Take care. See ya.